Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Yeah. Cold plunges. Who's surprised? We got a cold plunge sponsor. Yeah. I met Jeff Rempfer at a first responder conference not too long ago. He and his brother Dave are the owners, and Jeff's a first responder guy. They are killing it. They're this amazing cold plunges. We just got one put in at our house. How do you like it?
I love it, actually. I mean, it's
Game changer, huh?
It is a game changer, especially from coming from a horse trough?
Horse trough.
That's what we've been using.
It worked.
Hey, it did. It worked. It was great. I love it.
But it doesn't have a UV filter, freaking regular filter. This thing has a hot tub filter.
Yeah, it goes hot and cold. It's amazing.
It goes to 104 degrees and then all the way down to
45 degrees.
30s. Into the high 30s is what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy good stuff. We love it.
You don't need to go that low to get the benefits.
Yeah, low 40s is actually really what you need.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. 45 degrees, 3 minutes, and then get me out.
And then get you out. Yeah, we love it. But the main things that our sponsor wants us to highlight is that it's got an all aluminum frame. It's light, easy to move around. We put it up on our deck. You're able to get it up the stairs and stuff like that.
Installing it was the easiest thing. Like that was the easiest part, was installing it. I was surprised. We took it up a flight of stairs onto our deck, and it was not that hard.
Yeah.
I was surprised how light it was.
Right.
And then even like filling it up. How was that for you?
Super easy.
Yeah.
Really easy to use. I absolutely love this thing. It's got this huge pump in it, so it gets cold really quick and it can heat up really quick as well. And the best part, most hot tubs use like a 220 cables. You have to direct line in.
Oh, yeah.
This thing uses 110. You just plug it into your regular friggin' outlet and you're ready to go. Another amazing benefit. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get 25% off.
25% off. That's amazing.
Amazing. They're hooking us up. They really love the cause. We love them. We couldn't be more grateful to these guys for sponsoring the show. So if you need a cold plunge, Avantacool. That is AVANTIKUL.com.
Avantacool.
Welcome back. Finding Strength podcast. Here we are again, episode 77.
77.
I have a weird thing with the number 7. And if you don't know about it, you can ask me sometime. But basically, the number 7, it's a very special number.
So weird. I love you.
It's true, though.
It's true.
How many colors in the rainbow? 7. How many chakras? 7. Just everywhere.
7 is everywhere.
I'm telling you, man.
Yep,
Just watch out, people.
It's a good one to be on.
Paranoia creeps as I get older. Okay? It's fine.
Well, we have a guest today. Brad, say your last name for me.
Waldron.
Waldron. Yeah. Okay, Brad Waldron.
Yeah.
And I got your number from a friend of mine, Caitlin, who knows your sister, Hillary. Yeah. I was like, I got to get the name right.
So Caitlin is the sister of like one of the first friends I had when I moved to Utah, Mitch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
We're always
freaking
small lake city, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
That is cool. So Brad's here with us. I don't actually really even know your story, so I'm really excited just to kind of jump into it.
Okay.
But just little background. Where are you from?
So I was born in California.
Okay.
Van Nuys, California, San Fernando Valley. But I moved here when I was 13. My dad had retired from the police department out in L.A.
Okay.
And we all moved to Utah, and then you kind of got the weirdness of Utah, but grew, kind of got used to it, and grew up in an LDS
I was gonna say,
family.
Did you grow up LDS?
Yeah,
okay.
Typical size family. I'm the second to the last of 7 kids.
Did you hear that,
So.
Matt?
How many kids?
How many kids?
Oh my gosh.
7.
It's everywhere.
That's awesome. Okay, so you've been here ever since.
Yeah.
That's really
That's
cool.
rad.
Yeah, that is cool. So, well, let's just jump into it then. Like, tell us your story. Share it with us.
Well, for me, one special thing about me, I was born with a rare kidney disease.
Okay.
And so there's only like 2,000 worldwide, 500 in the United States that they know. It's called cystinosis. And so what it basically is, everyone's got this amino acid in their body, and it's supposed to pass through the cells. And if someone with cystinosis, it doesn't, and it'll build up and crystallize and cause damage to the organs or the body. And me and my brother Brennan both got it out of 7 kids.
Okay.
There's like a 25% chance to get it if you're out of whatever many siblings. And anyway, like, not to get the whole part of that, and both parents have to carry it.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a genetic disease. And so I dealt with that growing up, but kind of saw things how it was watching my brother Brandon. He was, 7 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
So my brother Brett's between us, and there's a 6-year gap between Brett and Brandon.
Okay.
And, it had issues, growing up, just like feeling indifferent, but just seemed like normal routine. Didn't really affect me until, honestly, after I moved to Utah. Started having issues with it and moving towards having to get a kidney transplant. And, that first transplant, you think it would have worked really well because it's from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a bunch of complications. And it finally got better, but also being a teenager, I wasn't very good at organ transplants. You have to be very adamant about like lab work and going to your doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can catch things like, rejection.
Okay.
And by the time they caught it, it was, already a full-blown rejection.
Oh, wow.
And so it only lasted about 1.5 years.
And how old are you at this point?
I've had my first transplant when I was about, it was just right after my 17th birthday. It was like days after my birthday.
So you're like a teenager.
Yeah.
Getting a transplant. Damn, that's hard.
But then that lasted about 1.5 years. Then had to go back on. After that kind of went under and failed on me, I had friends move into my neighborhood in Highland, Utah, and they were from California. I related to them really well.
Mm-hmm.
I already had a ton of friends that were in the drug scene and partying and all that, but stayed away from it because, the religious aspect kind of went away after a few years, kind of was questioning my way I was raised and in religious aspects of things. And then they moved in and my health was declining. My kidney was failing. That wasn't holding me back anymore. And so I was just like, screw it. It was like one Sunday, started with pot, just smoking some weed, but that instant like release of like all the stressors from my health was just gone. And that's what I fell in love with. And I was on dialysis that second time for about 4 years.
Wow.
Mostly because they don't like put you on a transplant list if you're a smoker and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't know about all the details of all the other stuff.
Yeah, you're a teenager.
I went back on it at 19. And so, and I just found love of painkillers through when I was on dialysis the last time, through little surgeries and finding out through friends I can abuse them other ways and I could make money off of them. Opiates was a big hit and
especially at that time. Yes, especially at that time, right? Because that's is that when OxyContin
it was a little
like
bit
a thing,
after
right?
it started becoming a thing. And that's the other thing is I went on Social Security income because I wasn't working after a year or two of being back on dialysis. And then right around I got back paid, but when I got back paid, it was like over $3,000. And I'm like, a young adult, pretty much a kid still. Yep. And I see all this money. And then I was right around the time I got into OxyContin. And so...
You're like $3,000.
Yeah.
That
this will give me a lot.
It went by quick.
Yeah, it doesn't go far. $3,000 not a lot, but as a kid, you think it's a lot, so you spend it like it was.
Exactly. Yeah. And so around after 4 years of being back on dialysis, I call it the years of hell because I was just doing drugs and I was at a place in my mind that. I was just like, I'm not going to see 30. I'm pretty sure I was going to die of an OD or my health was going to take me out, or it was a combination of both. And I went, I think it was like, I only was on the list for about 3 months, and I had told them I had stopped smoking, but I was still smoking. Opiates and cigarettes, for me, it was hand in hand. And it was only about 3 months, and they gave me the call, and I was like 4 p.m. on September 21st of 2010. And my mom was just all excited, and I'm getting to get this another second chance at life. And I just remember just feeling all this shame because I was doing what I did best the night before. I was getting high.
Yep.
And September 22nd, 2010 was when I got my second transplant. And, the painkillers in the hospital weren't touching anything because my built is such
Your tolerance was so high.
Tolerance.
Yeah.
And my mom was so confused. She was kind of, in the just saying that, not being, she didn't want to think her baby boy was doing that kind of stuff,
Yep.
As parents are,
Yes.
they're kind of intentionally naive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But if you can be
very
that.
naive, especially my mother, and and that for that most part, I was using and especially the harder stuff. My dad, you think he would have known, but he was working for the church up at Temple Square. He worked there for about 13 years before he fully retired, but he wasn't gone most of the time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really there, so I think he had just his suspicions, especially around some of my friends that were kind of really dumb. But I don't know. I think he just wasn't physically there, or mentally there. I would have to ask him about that.
Yeah, and see how it was on his end. Yeah, yeah.
But he, anyway, I had that second transplant, but, and it was about a year later when I would end up in treatment. But I could have gone to live somewhere else, but they wouldn't have been good places. It would have been using friends. And I decided to go to treatment. It was it was September 13th.
Like treatment, like drug treatment.
Yeah,
What gave you the idea?
Well,
What sparked that?
I had been through treatment before, but they were all court ordered.
Okay.
And
What was the court ordered system like?
Yeah. Where do you go for court order?
So I went to a program called NEFA, No Excuse for Abuse.
Okay.
And it was behind the Syria Theater in State in Orem.
Okay.
And
this is like a mandated thing?
Yeah, it was. I don't even know if they're still there.
Did you stay overnight, or was it just like a?
No, it was day treatment.
Okay.
Day treatment.
Yeah.
They're like doing like drug tests and stuff like that.
And so
providing counselors.
I went through there twice because I got through the program, graduated, and then I got in trouble again. This was during the years I was on dialysis for that 4 years.
Can you just explain what dialysis is? Because I'm not really familiar with it. So, what is the process of that?
So it's pretty much, there's different types. The basic thing is hemodialysis. Is go in and you could have a catheter in your chest, or you could have a fistula. And so fistula is, if you're going to be on dialysis long term, that's the best way to go because it's all for your whole body, and it's pretty much take a main artery vein connected to another vein, and if it takes, it kind of gets really big, and they stick you with two different needles. One takes your blood out, goes through the machine, filters it, and it goes back in. And those needles are pretty big gauge needles.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
They're not fun. I actually have. I
was gonna say scars all over, huh?
I got it to cover a lot of those scars.
So how often do you have to do dialysis?
Usually it's about 3 times a week.
Wow.
And there's other ones, if you do it at home, you can do it every night.
And how long does it take?
That just depends, really.
Okay.
It just depends on what kind of dialysis. Like my first time I was on dialysis, kind of forgot to talk about that, but it was when I was before my first transplant. It was about 6 months. It was peritoneal, peritoneal dialysis, and they put a catheter in your. They call it a catheter, but it's not the catheter most people think of. But it's in your stomach, and so it filters this solution through your peritoneal cavity. Peritoneal cavity is what holds your organs.
Okay.
And then it comes out at night. You just do it at nighttime every day.
Oh my gosh,
so
that's
basically just doing the job of the kidneys. Because your kidneys are basically just this giant filtration system.
And so going back a little bit, during that 4-year period, now get in trouble and was doing, you know, all different kinds of drugs.
Yeah.
And I was in those drug court programs. Well, I found out a way I could be clean.
You found a loophole.
I was getting cleaned out every night at every other day at dialysis. Because that time I was on hemodialysis. I had a fistula. And so every other day, if I timed it right,
You
I did
could
some
have
coke
clean
the night before, it was out of my system.
the next day.
Yeah.
Oh,
The only thing it didn't really work with, so I just stayed away from was pot.
Because that stays in your system longer. So you're like the
stores in
hardcore
the fat
stuff. We'll go
cells,
there
yeah.
instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do your mandated court orders, but then you go to treatment yourself. What? So yeah, what was it that got you to go to treatment?
At that time, like, you know, I think part of it was, you know, family pushing me. But I also knew there was something I just needed to change. Like my life wasn't going anywhere.
So your family knew at this point that you were addicted to drugs.
There had been different times that I had a friend that OD'd in my basement. Like it was like 2 weeks after my second transplant.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily, he survived, and you know he's still alive today as a little family.
Oh, that's good.
But you know, it's not as easy for everyone. Like have that rude awakening and I don't think he is someone that lives like a clean life as someone that goes to 12 step.
Yeah.
But, you know, he definitely lives a better life than he used to.
Kind of
straighten up his act.
Yeah.
And for me, I needed to get away, like away from all the friends and the surroundings I was in. I didn't think that way when I first signed up to go to treatment. I think I signed up for maybe 30 or 60 days. Ended up being there for like 103 days.
Oh, wow.
But I went to a little place called Steps Recovery in Payson, Utah.
Okay.
And this was in 2011. And so this is before what is Steps is today.
Steps is today, yeah.
Yeah. So everything they had was just there in Payson, Utah.
Yep.
And it was weird going there at first because my aunt and uncle has lived in this house in Payson since I was a kid. And we used to come up to Utah to visit them. And this is like not even a block away across the street from Steps Recovery.
Wow. So there's so much like memories there of you growing up and stuff. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I never thought I'd be in rehab when I was an adult. At like 23 years old. So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But yeah, when I first went in there, all I thought I needed to do was get off the drugs, get them out of my system. And it kind of changed as I was there, you know, because I'd been to the Steps meetings, AA or NA or whatever you want to call it, with different programs they have out there. Didn't really think I belonged there, you know, because I was court-ordered, getting that little report card signed. And over the process of time, they took us to these meetings when I was in treatment. Just kind of something clicked, and it kind of was noticing these people were happy. And maybe they had a solution to my problem, you know, and
that's my favorite word.
Right. And
that word, this is the most undervalued word that there is, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's this really subtle, very commonly used word that is an indicator of hope. Because if I can just be open to the idea, the possibility that
right.
all of a sudden things shift.
Your perspective.
You get biochemical change when you begin to enter into this place of hope, where you can kind of look to the future and go like, okay, I've seen things down this path, and I've used my imagination to create a future me that ODs at 30. And that's me in the future, and that informs me now. Because we're always trying to make up this idea of who we are. I mean, this is like the nature of, you know, humanness, life, right? Who am I? And I look to 30 and I go, probably an OD by then. That's who I am.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
Yeah.
Because that's not really who I am. Yeah. That's this imagined idea of what it means to be me. And so I now am living in alignment with the idea that I'm an OD when I'm 30. And so I go to do dialysis, and that's my loophole so that I can continue to do drugs because I'm going to die when I'm 30.
Yeah.
Right? And I keep doing this thing. And we all do this. This is human nature. because every single person has this idea of who they are, who they're supposed to be based on their life's experience. And it's little tiny, seemingly insignificant moments like going to a 12-step meeting and just noticing something so subtle and just being like, these people are actually kind of happy. And that's freaking Joe Schmo. I got high with that dude like freaking 9 months ago. He was a miserable look. He had 7 teeth. Now he's got a full freaking face of white teeth. What the hell? Come here, Joe. Right? That's why I love meetings. Meetings are dope for that reason.
Meetings, yeah.
Well, and the 12-step community in general is this place of hope. And that's really cool that you're able to see that. So you go to this meeting and you're kind of like, oh, okay, maybe. And then what?
Well, it they did steps does like its name does a kind of version of the steps while you're in treatment. They only usually work if you're there for a certain amount of time, like 90 days. Usually you work through about step 5, and step 4 is always the hardest because you have to look at yourself and all the wrongs you've done, and then step 5 is throwing all that stuff up to someone else and trusting that person.
So we're gonna do a 1 through 5 recap. Yeah. That cool? Step 1.
Step 1, you're like put me on the spot now.
That's what he loves to do.
I'll help you. Step 1.
I'm married to that.
Admitting you have a problem.
Admit, I have to. And this is the cool thing about the 12 steps, right? Is you can use the 12 steps in any aspect of your life. It is not just about recovery or addiction. The 12 steps is literally a miracle godsend formula for getting a better life. Oh, exactly. You want to change your life? Go to the 12 steps. But step 1, I have to admit that I have a problem. Right? Yep. And the cool part about 12 steps is there's this massive spiritual element to it where it's like, I'm not just admitting that I have a problem. I'm admitting to myself and to God. So I have to accept that there's something bigger than me out there. It's not just me.
Yeah.
And I'm admitting to that bigger than me thing, whatever the hell it is, that I have a problem. Right? 1. 2.
It's giving it up to God.
Giving it up to God.
Or higher power.
I have to give to higher power and say, hey, I am, quote unquote, powerless over this thing. I can't change of myself. I need help.
Ooh, that's a deep one.
From something bigger than me. Huge, right?
Yeah,
so that's huge. 1 and 2. We're on 2 now.
Yeah.
There's 12 of these bitches.
That's 2 already?
Right? Yeah. We're 2 deep. And you're already going like, I can't do this. Help me. Begging on your knees, right? Yeah. 3.
That's a hard one, especially.
2's the hang up, right?
Because I was raised religious and I was trying to figure out what I would believe in.
What you want to believe in, not what you were taught to believe in. Yes. And that's already doing a whole other like unmind.
Well, you can't get to helpfulness, which is step 12, without getting to helplessness first. Mm-hmm. You have to admit, one has to admit to him or herself that I am helpless, that it is hopeless, that there is nothing that I can do. I've tried everything, and everything I've learned up to this point has gotten me to the place that I'm in. So I probably need to start asking some questions and get some help from some other people who know more than I do. Maybe. Right? Oh, 12 steps are so cool. So 3. What's 3?
Oh, man. Why can't I think of these right now?
You're good, man. On the spot.
Yeah.
3. So 4 is
admitting your wrongs.
4 is the inventory, right?
Inventory.
4 is the inventory, and I'm not the 12-step expert either, so I don't remember 3 either.
What's 3?
I don't remember.
Now I want to look it up. You can't look it up. Look it up.
Look it up.
Come on. Okay, talk about 4. I'll look
4
it up.
and 5 are the big ones. These are the 2 massive ones. We'll get 3 in a sec here, but 4 is inventory, right? So what is that? What does that process look like? Because this is a big part of treatment.
So when I work steps with what they sponsee.
Because you sponsor people?
Yeah. And awesome. I don't do as much with 12-step, but I did for a lot of years, almost a decade, because I do stuff more at other programs now, but I still keep it in my life because that's what helped me stay clean. And I do have one sponsor right now, and I always tell them when they get to step 4, like, dude, don't concentrate on all the negative crap you've done too, because for every bad thing you've done, you got to put one good thing too.
Yeah.
Because that's where they get hung up on. And luckily I went to a program that I got to practice it. I call them my practice steps. So by the time I had to go do it with the sponsee when I got out of treatment, it was a little bit easier for me.
For sure.
And I actually kind of had some aha moments when I was doing this step. So,
Which is the purpose of that step,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him.
So I have a problem. God can help me, and then I have to turn it over.
Yeah.
And then here's why I have to turn it over.
Yeah.
Look at all this horrible, awful shit that I've done throughout my entire life. Look how many people I've freaking hurt. Look at all this stuff. And
It's
just
gotta be hard.
Boom, 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 right?
So did you ever like think about like, okay, did you go during that process, think about, okay, how many people did I affect by having my drug problem and getting my transplant and like, oh, that must have been painful.
Yeah, it was. And then one thing I also had to recognize is not like taking too much of the street.
Yes.
That's what my sponsor.
Explain that. That's a brilliant thing.
It was like, because I was just taking too much ownership of everything.
So taking too much of the street, why is that the phrase that's used?
People,
our listeners aren't 12-step people.
Yeah,
they don't
it's
understand.
true.
Clean
I
your
should
side.
probably explain that.
Explain. Keep your side of the street clean. This is great. This is people, listeners at home are going
I've
to love
never
this
heard that term either.
Once you honestly own the things you've done, your side of the street, just
everything's a two-way street.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
exactly. Because you can't take ownership of anyone else's things that they've done.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's getting into your head too much, like thinking that, oh, I did this to my mom and must have done this and that to her. But how do I know that? That's taking way too much ownership.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you're creating this story in this head, but you don't really know her perception of it.
It's fueling the psychology behind this is it's actually fueling my own narcissism. My own overindulgence in life has created this massive ripple effect that if I overindulge in my own side of the street, so to speak, it's actually like inflating my role and highlighting, overemphasizing my own self-importance, which the 12 steps is not about my self-importance at all, right? This is why we as greater than me is a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's why when I do treatment stuff, because I do a group at Steps every Tuesday. I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And one of the things that seems to help people in recovery and in life in general is understanding that like, yeah, I've created a bunch of problems. And that's why step 4 is so important. Look at all these things that I've done. So I can recognize my part to play, my side of the street, my role in this thing. And then I have to go to somebody else, another human being, and look this other human being in the eye and say, hey, here's all the evidence that I'm this self-centered, narcissistic piece of shit person who doesn't deserve any help from anybody. And I have to lay it all out, right? Mm-hmm. And I do this step 5 with my sponsor. And I look at him and they look back at me. And what does the sponsor say? 999 times out of 1,000. Me too. Mm-hmm. We're just like each other, man. I get it. I did that. Let me tell you a story. Oh, you think you got stories? And
connection.
And it's this beautifully connecting moment. And so now we're what the 12-step method did not understand that it was doing, because this was not deliberate. However, what we know about addiction, what we know about mental health issues, what we know about just pain in general, the worst, most debilitating pain that a human being can experience is the pain of isolation and loneliness. There's nothing worse. That's the despair of grief. That's the abandonment of a child. It's all this loneliness, this helplessness, this I will never be whole again, and I am worthy of the pain that I'm getting, and it's my fault, and I'm so lonely and so desperate and so sad that I'm now a bad person. Shame.
Yep.
By going in for this step 5 thing with the sponsor and saying all that shit that I've done and all these horrible things, and them looking back at me and going, maybe you're more human than you think, man.
Right.
Oh, that's a moment, dude. Right? What was that like? Because you probably did that, right?
Well, yeah, and just honestly, when I had a step working guide, and I had a couple aha moments in it, and just like, not that I was blaming anything on anyone else, but just like realizing certain things about myself.
Like what?
Like,
what are some of the big ones?
Not feeling like I had a lot of worth. Growing up in a big family.
Not feeling worthy. Yeah.
Feeling invisible.
Parent not having a lot of time for you. And I mean, now like I look as, my parents are older. I get to spend a lot more time with him now, make memories with him now. You know, I understood my father was raising, you know, and paying for seven kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of, you got to take on all the extra work and all that. I'm sure he did, you know, and I'm sure he had a lot of stress sitting on his shoulders.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's also from a whole different generation that men don't
and that is
express that.
That's considered in it, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
It reminds me of like what is in my control and what is out of my control.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it like that 12-step. You get to that part where you're like, okay, what can I do now? Because you can't go back in the past and I can't move in the future. So what can I do now and what am I in control of now?
And you do that in coaching with people all the time.
Oh, I do that
It's a major
all
part
the
of
time.
coaching.
It's a huge part because then it gives you back like that hopelessness goes away because then you can worry about like it's on you. You know, it's like I have to look in within me and how am I going to show up to how does Brindy want to show up today? How do I want to see myself?
It's an empowering way to recognize that I don't have to be lonely. There's something I
Yes.
can do about this.
Yes.
And I'm not helpless.
Yep.
There is hope there. Things are going to get better, but I have to do something about it. And likely my focus has been completely wrong. It's been on the other side of the street, not my own side of the street.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And the
Yeah.
thing that my side, your side, that's in
Oh,
control, out of control.
Totally. And it helps, you know, like we like to pretend that we know what other people are saying about us and think about us, but we don't. We have no freaking clue. And that helps us realize like, I just need to worry about me and what I can control and what I can do today. Yeah.
Yeah.
For shizzle.
For shizzle.
It's true though.
No, it
Because
is, yeah.
Dude, think of how many times you get lost, right? I don't know why I love driving as a metaphor, but like the worst driving experiences of my recent life are when I'm worried about some dumbass on the road who can't drive and I'm like, "Grr," right?
Yeah.
And it's
So
just like,
mad.
there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Like, why am I so angry at freaking Jill Schmill who's driving her freaking Escalade too slow? Like, you know, like why? Oh, actually, that's about me. That's not her.
Yes.
My,
I project all my stuff onto these other people, and that just makes me suffer.
Yeah.
Whereas if I would just focus on me and be like, you know, I can take a breath here. Go ahead, Escalade lady, right? You know.
yeah, one of the therapists that worked at the treatment center I went through used to use that concept all the time about like you don't know what they're going through. You know,
Yep.
maybe they're driving like an idiot because they're trying to rush to the hospital, or maybe they have to go to the bathroom. Who
Yes.
knows?
Yeah. Been there. Yeah.
Exactly.
I use that all
Yeah.
the time.
So you're at STEPS program.
Yeah,
And
at
you
that
finished
time,
that?
Yeah, I finished
Okay.
that, and it was funny because when I was in treatment, I wanted to stay longer, and then one of the therapists had mentioned like, "Oh, well, your insurance hasn't paid anything," and I was
You're like, okay,
"Oh."
stress
I was
reduce.
like, you know, I was worried about that, but yeah, I you know was there over the holidays. So it was September, like all the way to like December, like 30th of 2011, and you know, so I got to go on passes when I was on when I was in treatment, and one of the times I think it was Thanksgiving, and this is probably a big one of the eye-opening moments I had, and we went to the rec center in American Fork. You know, it's right by the cemetery. With my brother-in-law Nate, and you know, I have older siblings, so he's been a part of my life for a long time. He dated my sister when they were in high school, and we went and played some racquetball, I think it was, and on our way back, we're passing the cemetery, and he just points over there, and he's like, you know, I thought we were gonna take my kids to visit you there. And I was like, it was a hard thing to hear, but it was real. And I was like, I don't want my nieces and nephews to not know who I am, like visiting me. And they'll be like, who's this person we're visiting at the cemetery? Because they were young then.
God, what does that feel like
Yeah,
to have
that gave me chills.
realization,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
To just be
it's-
like, that's not me anymore. And now,
Yeah, I mean, here I am at like 2 months, almost 3 months clean. And I'm like, whoa, I guess
Damn.
it did affect people, you know. And the other time was similar, was, you know, steps. You probably know their program a little bit. And yeah, family process group. And that's intense just in its own, even if you're not even in the middle of the group. But you sit in the middle, and whoever you've been having the most issues with, which was my father, you know. You know, here's a man I'm sitting in front of holding hands with, and the counselors on either side of me. Everyone, their family, everyone I'm in treatment with, just watching,
So
listening.
vulnerable. That is so vulnerable.
Yeah.
That is.
And here's
yeah.
my dad, who was like, you know, LAPD, was on the SWAT team, and he was this tough guy. And I had to tell him how I had pawned something of his. It was his father's, his gold ring he got in Port Peru when he was out there on his mission. Luckily, I hadn't lost all my soul, so I got it back before I went to treatment. But you know, I could have hawked it. It weighed quite a bit. It was, if I was a little further out there, I probably would have, because I would have got a lot more money. But luckily I didn't. But I had to sit there and tell him how I did that. He could have never known. And then hearing him talk about like being worried that they would go down to the basement and find me dead or something like that. And like, whew, like that's
You don't think about that.
that's
No.
yeah, you're so selfish in your addiction. You just think about
Why do you think
one
that is?
goal.
Why do you, sorry,
Sorry.
babe. Why do you think that is?
A lot of it is, I think you get set into such dark place, and to a point where you're so selfish, and all you want is that one thing, and
What is the one thing?
to get loaded.
Why?
What does it do for you though?
For me, it was a release. It started as a release, you know, stress release of everything just gone, the stressors from my
Feeling
health.
gone. Yep.
Exactly. Feelings of, you know, being just a stressor of everyone in my family because of my own health, you know, a burden to others. All that was just gone. And then eventually, you know, it's not just about that. It's just, you don't want to be sick. And then it's just like, you know, it's like a horrible habit, but it's more than that.
It's not a habit.
Yeah.
It's a survival.
Oh,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good word. Yeah.
You're trying to survive.
Yeah. Exactly.
Trying to do anything you can to not feel the feeling.
And you get to a point where you don't know how to feel anything else without it either. Even happiness. Like it's like anything in life, it's a time to celebrate and get loaded, like, or an excuse to get loaded.
You'd want to augment that feeling.
Yeah.
Because the nature of feeling in and of itself has to always have dark and light. It's an amalgamation of both. It's a combination of both. And those two things, dark and light pinging off each other, is what gives us that feeling. Right? And you can look at this biochemically. I mean, in order for things to function, you have to have positive and negative energy, and they ping off of each other and they create stuff, right? That's happening in our bodies all the time. So what's really cool is we can take this kind of spiritual for a second here. And we talked about this on the podcast before. And it's important, I think, to repeat, because this is a concept that is very, very helpful to me and helpful to a lot of the people that we've worked with. In the East, they don't have a word for stress. They don't really have a word for anxiety either. I mean, they do now as things have modernized, but really in the ancient, texts, you never found anxiety. You never found stress, these things that we talk about all the time. We're trying to just constantly get rid of. The word that was used is just a word that means the feeling. And what I have kind of found is that this thing called the feeling is extremely painful. It's arduous and difficult and stressful, and it hurts because that thing called the feeling that we're all trying to run away from and escape every single day, doing all this stuff to just not feel that feeling, stress, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, depression, sadness, pain, hurt. I numb out. I go on my phone. I get high. I freaking watch TV till endless. I work, I drink, whatever, all these things. I work out just so I don't feel the feeling. And then you go to treatment. And what do?
Yeah.
They expose you.
Guess what?
Feeling the feeling.
You can't not feel this feeling anymore. Not only that, we're going to get you to the point where you're feeling this feeling, and we're going to just leave you there. And you're going to explore what this feeling really is. And what you come to find is that this feeling is the feeling of being alive. And it brings you the greatest instruction, the greatest understanding of what it means to be alive that there ever has been. And it's right here, right now, all the time. And this is the importance of things like meditation and mindfulness. And that's why exercise is important, because you can intensify that feeling and you can increase your tolerance for feeling the feeling of stress and anxiety and fear and overwhelm and stuff like that. And what we as a society have done is we've kind of like branded this thing, the feeling, as this horrible, awful thing that you're never supposed to experience or feel. Because it's too big, it's too much. We can't handle it. So we run from it. We numb it.
We get prescriptions.
We get prescriptions, right? And in the end, the whole point of this experience is to feel the feeling. And I think that concept for me has really fundamentally changed my experience in life.
Oh, 100%.
Because now I don't want to run anymore.
No.
I'm not running away from, I'm running towards.
Well, and accepting that feeling, right? And then just sitting with that emotion, whether that's like break down and crying, like then just break down and cry and feel that.
And that feeling, whenever I connect to it and I'm really sitting with it, and whenever I watch people connect with it and sit with it and feel it, 100% of the time, it's driving me somewhere.
Yeah.
And that is always, always, always towards other people, towards connection.
Yep.
Which is interesting, right? Because you'll remember a minute ago, what were we talking about is this horrible, awful thing that we don't want to feel. Isolation. Because the feeling is so powerful in isolation, because what's the whole point of the feeling? It's driving us towards connection. So we're sitting there in isolation, terrified, lonely, hurt, scared. And what do? We turn the feeling off. And what do we end up? Lonely, isolated, scared, numb, and avoidant. When in reality, God, Mother Nature, the universe, whatever it is, has programmed into us the most incredible force to get us out of isolation and loneliness. And it is, in fact, the feeling. It's intense, man.
Yeah.
It is intense.
But it's really cool.
It's beautiful.
Because when you get to understand it and you understand why it's there and what it's trying to do, and you learn to listen to it, you all of a sudden you find all these really cool people.
Yeah.
And you get these really cool experiences and these amazing connections. And then all of a sudden you find like your best friend on accident. And then, and then you have these kids and life shows up for you and you want to be there for your nieces and nephews rather than just get loaded.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's powerful stuff, man.
It is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're sitting here today. So it's awesome. Like I love that you're sharing your story with us. No, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So,
Yeah, it's great.
So after you go to that treatment center, did you end up going to another one then, or was that your last one?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
steps.
I was fortunately, and God willing, to this day I've been clean since then.
That is awesome.
So it's been
Since 2011?
Yeah, so it's a little over 12 years.
How long is that now?
Well,
12
September 14th.
years.
Congratulations, man. September 14th.
Damn, that is really cool. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic, man.
that
Well, it's
is.
been a roller coaster.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't life still happens.
Yep.
Things still happen. Health crap still happens.
Yep.
Like I'm just found out I got back involved with Addict II Athlete, went through some mental health stuff, and a lot of it where it stems down to is that I wasn't doing things like I did for my recovery. 2020 screwed up a lot of things.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so I went through all this, but I started going back to therapy, and I hadn't been to therapy since I was in treatment, and I got very minimal of that. Not that I didn't like my therapist there, but there was 20-something clients and 2 therapists.
It's not a place where you get a ton of therapy.
Yeah.
It's
like
when you
one-on-one.
get out.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have continued it a lot earlier.
Which is actually, for people in early recovery, one of the best things you can do is go to consistent therapy to prolong the likelihood of your staying clean long-term.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. So are you still attending? That's
I
cool.
still go to my therapist once or twice a month.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, and then anyway, I think I was doing this endurance challenge with Addict II Athlete. Got involved at A2A around 2017 and kind of was in and out of it for a few years and got back about 2 years ago. And do this endurance challenge, and what it was is you had from February to November of last year. to complete a service project. That could be even just going and, service at a race, and or whatever that may be. And then it was a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, and then a marathon. But if you can't, do a whole marathon, you could do 2 additional halves. And it was like right in the middle of that. So it was like the beginning of the summer, I found out my kidney from 2010 had started to fail on me. And I was able to hold it out, and I still finished that whole endurance challenge.
Wow.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so it was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I ran a whole half.
No, yeah.
There's a few of them I did better at, and I was more in shape for, but there was my last one, and I did the Nebo half, and I just walked it with my friend because
That's
how I do half
a
marathons.
challenge for it in itself.
me and her hadn't been training, so we're just like, let's just go. We signed up. Let's get this done.
Good for you, man.
But that was really cool. But slowly my kidney started getting worse. Kidney function started getting worse, and it was November. They told me just to go up to the U and get admitted to get a dialysis port put in. And that was the first week in November, so I've been on dialysis since.
Okay.
So I'm going through this whole thing again.
So,
Man.
and you've had 2 transplants?
Yeah. So this next one will be my third. Yeah, and it's
kidney, right?
kidney.
You need a kidney transplant.
Exactly.
And you're on the list now?
Yeah. On the list, it's kind of been a really cool experience. A2A put on a fundraiser like in December. It's a 5K and had a gear swap, and people came out, and then like a lot of people donated. It was
cool.
hard and also weird being on that side.
I bet to receive that is probably
super
so
vulnerable.
hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Humbles you, I bet. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then I actually had a bunch of people I know that have signed up to be. You can go on, it's like a Utah U of U website to sign up to see if you can be a donor.
Oh, cool.
And you could even put the person's name you want to donate to. And my one friend, she couldn't donate to me because she wasn't a match.
Okay.
But she still donated because if you do that, you can still donate on behalf of someone. It's kind of put them on the list a little higher. Yeah. And so, and I went into this time going on dialysis thinking, I've been through this before, a little cocky, really.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm getting into, and it's been a completely different experience this time.
Really?
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Well, I was 19 last time, or before
Your
that I was
awareness
16.
is way more. Yeah.
And I'm 36 now. And so I'm a little bit older.
Old man.
So it's been a whole different, experience.
Oh, that's a way different animal. Yeah.
So what's your match? What's your blood type? Is it blood type they go off of? Is that what they go off of?
Yeah.
A negative. So
Well,
can you
that's what they
only
start
accept?
with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole different, after you've had transplants too, you can build up antibodies. And so your antibodies have to match with the donor.
Okay.
So that makes it a little bit harder.
So it gets more complicated.
Yeah, that's so interesting what it is. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff I didn't even know about.
Oh, yeah.
That goes into it. But it's
Modern medicine is absolutely amazing, man.
Oh, yeah. And that's, one thing I'm grateful for, being born in a time period that we're at.
Yeah.
With my disease, if I would have been born like 20 years earlier, 30 years earlier, probably wouldn't have made it very far in life.
Yeah.
Because the medicine wasn't there.
Yeah.
So
We're glad you made it, man.
I know.
We're
Me
glad
too.
you're alive and kicking and helping people out and doing the thing, man. That's great.
And that's another thing that's different from last time. Last time I was getting loaded a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And now, yeah.
Probably things might take a little better this time. You never know. That's good, man.
So I think I want to ask you one of the questions that we sent you, and then we can wrap this up because I'm like, these were pretty good questions. So is there one that you
we
prefer?
answered several of them.
Yeah. Well, that's true. We have. But
roundabout way.
yeah, I think we should talk about what does it mean to be a human. I like that one.
Sure.
Like, what does it mean to be a human to you? Like today, like all the stuff that you've been through.
I think what it comes down to is also a lot about your purpose and finding that.
Yes.
I mean, that's partially why I love cooking. It's a service to others.
Oh, I love it.
And that's what I love about, even if this coming year, I can't participate in the races I want to do, I could still be there. I could still go out and be at an aid station, cheering my friends on, and even others I don't know. I'll meet along their way. I mean, last year there was an aid station I worked at, and then this runner came through another race, and he remembered me because I gave him Tylenol, and I had on me.
Yeah.
And he was just like, remembered me and just was super grateful about it.
I love
and
it.
it's a totally cool community, different community, but very similar to the recovery community.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Very uplifting and everyone.
I mean, my
cheering each other
first
on.
half marathon I did last year was in April. It's a Salt Lake City half marathon.
Wow.
And I had signed up for it. There's this lady, Freya Robinson, and her husband. They have a couple girls that are disabled, and they get people from A2A to go out and push them in wheelchairs at races and stuff. And she had posted on a page saying that they needed someone for the Salt Lake City half. And my dumbass, thinking that I had a month or two to prepare for this, I was like, oh, I've heard it's really cool to push her daughter Emma, and I'll go do this. And then I sign up and then look at the dates, look at the details, and I'm like, oh, shit. This is like less than a week and a half away.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I went out and did that. And it sucked because the night before we did one of our Addict II Athlete relays where we bring awareness to addiction and overdose and raise some funds for new athletes and things like that. But I had started dealing with like a band issue. And it was the race the next morning. I tried to run and like, that's not happening.
Yeah, you're like, this isn't gonna happen. Yeah.
But it was really cool because like since I was a volunteer pushing Emma on the chair, we started earlier, and so it was a while before all the other runners caught up to
you. Yeah.
And most of them, I could tell I was struggling, but like it was all positivity when they were passing me, and just you got this, keep going. And then there was one hill that this one lady, I don't know who she is, but she helped me push Emma up the hill.
I love that.
I love the race community, man.
I love
miss
that.
I worked a lot with Blue at Telos way back then. So Blue Robinson is the Addict II Athlete founder.
Yeah.
And when I met Blue years and years ago, we worked at a youth treatment center where we would train these kids in triathlons. So that's how I got to know Blue.
Okay.
And then he stepped out and went and did all the other stuff that he's doing now.
That's
and so I
awesome.
was a big proponent, loved being in that race community, did all sorts of triathlons. I haven't done it in so long. But it's fun, man. Everybody comes in. There's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's definitely what got me across that finish line was, that positivity.
Yeah.
And then I had one of my teammates, Steve, he came out. He's a lot more of a runner than I am. Let's just say that. But he came out around mile 8, and he helped me push Emma for a little while.
That's awesome.
And then it was Emma, honestly, that got me across that because I had made a commitment to her to get across that finish line. But that was my first long distance run.
Wow.
And definitely caught the bug of it. I want to do more.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
hopefully I'll get that transplant soon because I want to PR some races. Because last year my health wasn't the greatest, so it's definitely be interesting to see how we'll do in another race with a healthy kidney.
Yeah. Man. I love that though. I love that you said purpose. What is it like to be human? Have a purpose. Find your purpose. If you don't have one, find one, because it really does drive you. And not only does it drive you when you catch that bug or that purpose or whatever. I swear it's like this energy. It just grows and other people feel it and it affects them. And then they want, to find a purpose and stuff like that. And that's why I love that community, because it's like encouraging. Everyone's just pushing each other through something really hard, like running up a mountain and pushing someone. I'm like, I'm out.
Exactly.
I'm like, that's really hard. So thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story. And that was really cool. Yeah. That was awesome.
Dude. Appreciate it. It was really good to meet you.
Yeah.
You work at Ardu, right?
Yeah, right now I work at Ardu. I've been there for a little over a year. So the kitchen is kind of different. So I don't technically work for Ardu. I work for a company called Bee's Kitchen.
Yeah.
But
you're there.
But I still work for Ardu.
You're still working in the recovery community. Very involved with Addict II Athlete.
Yeah, I've been working in recovery since 2013. So
That's
That's
cool.
cool.
different positions.
If
but-
people want to get a hold of you, or if they want to donate or help out, is there a
Yeah.
way that they can do that? What's the best way?
There is, so my sister created a Facebook page for me, but
Okay.
I wish I had it.
He's like, I don't remember what
I
it's
don't
called.
remember what it's called.
That's okay.
Maybe just send us a
Give
link.
it
We'll
to
post
yeah,
it.
send
Oh,
it to
okay.
me
I can
and
do
we'll
that.
post it and put it on
Okay.
at the bottom of your episode
that,
too.
that page, I think, mostly has like the details if you want to sign up to be a donor and stuff
Awesome.
like
Cool.
that. I don't
Yeah.
think she has any like GoFundMe set up
Nothing
yet.
like that yet. But
Cool.
check in with Addict Athlete because they're doing all sorts of great
Yeah,
stuff
I
and
mean,
involved in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, since I got clean, it's been cool to see how much outside the 12-step community, the recovery community has grown. How there's different avenues. If you don't, a 12-step doesn't work for you.
Right.
You know, it's if you say you can't get clean, and you live in the state of Utah, you really don't want to get clean.
Well
It's a great
said,
community
brother.
to live in to get clean, I guess, huh?
exactly. Yeah,
There's a lot of support,
Yeah,
man.
it's true.
Oh,
There is.
support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you.
You're a stud, man. Appreciate
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.